Hey everybody, episode 5 of the Retro Rampage podcast. I'm Aaron, here with Riverman.
Hey guys, what's up?
And, what I really wanted to talk about, and actually sort of the focus of this and the following 2 episodes, is sort of this rise of indie games and the retro revival that's coming along with it. We got a lot of games like Oddworld New and Tasty coming out, games that have already like Rogue Legacy and Mighty Number 9, everybody knows about that one. And of course, Shovel Knight, which has come out the last couple weeks and getting rave reviews. So we're going to kind of break open what that's been all about. But before we do that, I don't know, let's just talk about what's been getting our fix lately as far as retro games. River, have you had any good pickups lately?
You know what? I've been looking at a lot of things. I've been going back and forth on a Wii U, which I do want to pick up, but can't really pull the trigger yet financially. That's one thing I do want to get. Retron 5, we'll wait on that. Maybe another episode we'll talk about that.
At the sake of this becoming We Hate Hyperkin podcast.
Yes.
We could just continue to bitch about that company, and that's just ever evolving. Like, it just keeps getting worse and worse from a consumer standpoint. And I've heard horror stories about more and more pre-orders getting canceled yet again from different retailers, and it's just because, like the consumers are experiencing, these retailers are having poor communication with Hyperkin, and so they've decided to just sort of return the money to their customers because they don't. That's
a dick move, man. People put their money in 2 years ago and they're getting their money back.
Exactly. And then from what I've heard, none of this is rock solid, but from what I've heard, that's exactly what it is. These people are reaching out to these people that have had pre-orders for over a year, and because Hyperkin's ability to reach out and just kind of confirm things has been so bad that they would rather give the customers back their money that have had it there so long instead of just holding on to it without an answer because they don't know when another shipment's going to come,
which I do respect. They have to do that eventually. After a year and a half, it's inevitable.
And I respect it too, and it's not their fault, but Hyperkin, and I don't blame a young company for hitting bumps in the road, but there's no excuse for ignoring people and not telling people what's up. Because I think if you haven't, even if it's a small following, as long as it's a core following and you're honest and straightforward with people, a lot of people are going to understand. So they're burning me, and I've never even played the product.
Yeah.
And so, even if the product kicked ass, I don't think. I just boycott it now.
Yeah, I think I'm at that point where I want to boycott it. Until something else comes out, and hopefully something will come out. And I was listening to other podcasts, and I don't know if it's the licensing for N64 should be up here within the next year. So hopefully they're going to have something with that too, which would be nice.
Having the vision is just one part of a great business plan, and they have that. But as far as the marketing and the customer service and all that stuff, they just fall really flat. So I can't wait for another company, like you're saying, a competitor to come along with that vision that's going to execute it great in all areas, and I guess I'll just wait for those guys, whoever you may be. Maybe it's us.
Yeah,
maybe it's going to be, I don't know. I'm really good at telling you what's cool and what's shit. So we just need a brainiac to come on board. So if you're listening and you got the...
Well, let me know if my pickups are shit. These are kind of older pickups, but I don't think I've talked about them. I really haven't picked up a whole lot of games here recently, but I picked up Super Ghouls and Ghosts at a flea market, which is solid. Of course, I love that game. It's harder than hell, but it's fun.
What'd you get it for?
I think I got it for $10.
Not shabby.
So I got that, and then I got Dragon Warrior on NES. I got that for $4.
And that's about what that. Well, I'd say if you get it for under $7, you're getting a deal. But $4 to $7, what you're going to find that one for. And Dragon Warrior, as common as it is, and you know why it's so common, right? I think everybody should know this.
Why is that?
Because they were giving it away with Nintendo Power.
Oh, okay.
And that's the only reason why it's as common as it is, because the RPG genre was struggling in North America, and in Japanese attempt to get it noticed and recognized and jump-started in America, they were giving it away with copies of Nintendo Power. So that's the only reason why a game like that is as abundant as it is. Now try finding Dragon Warrior 2, 3, or 4.
Exactly.
They're very rare. a lot harder to come by, and they're going to hurt your wallet a lot more. But with that said, like a lot of the common games, some of them are crap, but a lot of the common games are really good, and Dragon Warrior is always going to be one of my favorite games in series. So,
and it's fun, man. I'm only a couple hours in, but I'm having a good time with it. So
yeah, it's a slow grinder, man. It's a lot of grinding, and it's quote unquote the first role playing game, and it's primitive, but it's very satisfying. I can't explain it, but yeah, it's definitely a good platform for you to start from if you're not an RPG guy.
The last pickup, which I got for free because I bundled all this stuff, was the Karate Kid on NES. So I was kind of happy with that because we just saw Machio at the convention and everything, and I was like,
the Wizard World convention.
Yeah, so they were showing highlights of it, so I was like, Karate Kid, I can throw that in for free because that thing goes for nothing, So.
Yeah, it's kind of a shit game.
Yeah,
but luckily, Super Ghouls and Ghosts and Dragon Warrior are awesome. So
yeah.
You lucked out there. As far as me, I've been trying to pad out my Genesis collection. I think you know that, River. Mm-hmm. It's pretty piss poor compared to when I was a kid, so I want to give that some love. And I recently just picked up a 4-lot, all in the box, all in the case, all great condition. No manual, sadly, but that is something I can live without for now, and I will acquire later. But and the coolest thing is unlike your score, which we're all guilty of doing that, just kind of like bundling and taking shitty games and whatever we can get our hands on. These are all 4 games that I wanted, and I probably could have got a better bundle and gotten a lot more, but I chose to get the 4 I really wanted, and that was Rocket Knight Adventures for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
One of my favorite platforms ever, and Konami's answer to Sonic the Hedgehog back in the day, and in my opinion, just as good, if not better, in a lot of areas. I also got a boxed copy of Mortal Kombat 2, which I no longer have. So just for that, just for shits, I got a box copy of the Spider-Man animated series game, which you might argue is not good or whatever. I know Spider-Man doesn't have a lot of good games in his repertoire, but I owned that as a kid, and I always really liked it. And at least for nostalgic value, at the very least, it's something I really, really wanted and was on the hunt for. Also, Shining in the Darkness in the box, which, as most people know, is the original in the Shining Force series. So, and I actually never got to play that one as a kid. I was a huge fan of Shining Force 1 and Shining Force 2 and the Game Gear Shining Force sort of Hygeia. So I'm looking forward to cracking open that one. That one's more of a dungeon crawler, though. So those are my scores. I'm really stoked about them, but I don't know. Been out of the game too long.
What'd you pick up those for? Decent price or?
Oh yeah, decent price. Somebody sold them to me for $30 shipped.
Oh, okay.
So that averages out $7.50 a game, and something like Rocket Knight, if you have the manual with it, goes from anywhere from $20 to $35.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat. Now, considering none of these have manuals, so you got to kind of adjust it there. But I know Mortal Kombat 2, if you got a manual with it, you can get it for around $10, maybe 10 to 12. And, I'm not too sure on Spider-Man, probably somewhere in that ballpark as well. And Shining in the Darkness, yeah, like I said, all ballpark. I made out, so I can't.
You got the box Sega Genesis games, that's all that matters. I mean.
Oh, dude, I there's something about them. There's something incredibly.
It's too hard to buy loose carts of Sega Genesis games now. Like, in Nintendo or Super Nintendo's different story, but I'm just talking about, if you want Sega Genesis, you got to go all out, I think.
Well, just because the availability's there.
And the display. I mean, they're too hard to display.
The availability's there. I mean, you kind of have to make that leeway for Nintendo because the boxes are so hard to come by. We used to, everybody knows we used to crush those things, throw them away, and we want to kill ourselves now for doing it because they were cardboard. But the Genesis, they were hard shells. Everybody knows the clam shells, and so because of that, they're more abundant. So you might as well take advantage of the fact that they're around still for as long as they're going to be around, because over time they might start dwindling on those cases. You never know.
One thing I was looking up, I was on Craigslist the other day. Do you know anything about modded Wiis?
I don't know how to do it, but I know a lot of people with them. My brother, I got a brother that has a modded Wii, and he's got like everything under the sun on it, all kinds of emulated games, and every NES, Genesis game, whatever you can think on there.
I saw a dude on Craigslist. He was selling a modded Wii for like $30. I didn't know if that was good. If they can actually still play the discs, or is it they can only play ROMs now, or what is that?
I'm not really too sure, but I'd also want to see how much crap he has loaded onto it.
Yeah.
But if he's got like a whole bunch of stuff already loaded on there to save you the trouble, and it comes with like a memory card that can hold all that stuff, it's definitely not a bad deal if that's something that floats your boat. I mean, but if it's just modded and, you know, you got to provide your own card and do all the work yourself, I mean, it still might be worth it to you. But because, you know, it's not everybody's successful at jailbreaking that stuff. So that's why. I mean, if I was going to go that route, I would pay someone to do it that knows what they're doing.
Sure.
But yeah, anyway, I've been out of the game too long. And so it's kind of fun to it's a lot more fun for me to buy stuff intermittently and buy stuff I want than to just and believe me, it's fun just to kind of go out every other day and hit the flea market. The physical act of doing it is a lot of fun and finding the deals. But at the end of the day, you end up with a lot of shit that maybe you probably don't need. So
I've been there.
So I'm really liking this phase of quality over quantity.
And we're finally jumping into that phase, especially me, man. I mean, for about a year, it's just like, yeah, you want to build up the collection, but you got to sit back and actually look at the collection. Like, is this worth it, you know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of quality, let's jump into the meat of it. And indie games, you know, they know quality because they're all about bringing back the retro revival, the golden age of gaming. And like I said, there's lots of games coming out, like Oddworld New and Tasty and Mighty Number 9. Everybody's heard about Mighty Number 9, and we're going to get a little bit more into things like that a little bit later. And we're going to have a Shovel Knight review, and we're going to chat about that here in a future installment, which is going to be bundled with this episode. And, you know, games like Rogue Legacy. Why is it that the retro revival is happening in indie, you know, and why is it, do you think it's just that
kids are growing up, man?
Is it just a matter of the times you come in full circle?
Kids in their 20s and 30s want to still play retro games, but yet they don't have access to all the retro games. I mean, it's hard to come by some of these older titles, and you want something new too, man. When I see a retro game out there that's coming out, like, you know, I dive into it and see what it's all about. Like, more over like a brand new PlayStation 4 game that just came out, you know? Like, I step back and look at the retro stuff first, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, the retro, which, you know, I think you should consider everything up to the Dreamcast.
And the thing about retro is, like, you can throw on a retro game, and if you only have 20 minutes to play it, you can play it. You don't have to sit there and look at 20-minute cinema takes and storylines to these newer games, which, I mean, as much as I like some of the newer games, that's what turns me off to some of the newer games. Because I don't have the time to sit there and play for, you know, 10 hours a day.
Well, and I actually got into a discussion with a friend of mine about that, who's really big into Xbox Live, and he goes home every night and he gets on the boards and they play online gaming and they do all that stuff. And not that you can't create quick matches with that stuff, but just like the campaigns and stuff, they're so quote unquote epic in proportion and more cinematic that it's harder. They take more investment, and like you're trying to get at there with these old school platforming games, like a game like Shovel Knight, which we'll get into, is incredible because I like the idea of clear stopping points. It's like, well, hey, you know, I've only got 20 minutes after, you know, working 16 hours, or maybe you're taking finals or whatever, you know, I'll beat a level and find that clear stopping point. And, you know, there's something, and a lot of them don't take too much time, you know, if you don't have it and to complete. So there's a beauty in that. And I'm glad to see that something can only get so big before it just kind of implodes. You know, games keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, more grandiose and things like that, and more elaborate. We're getting Hollywood actors to provide voices. We're getting, you know, John Williams to provide the fucking music scores and all kinds of stuff. And that's still not dying. That's not going anywhere. Yeah. But we have this trickle effect, and we have this thing happening where now it's starting to go back to the roots, you know. And there's a lot of people, I think, maybe we're in the minority here, but that kind of are getting a little sick of it, and we kind of miss the old school and the simplistic approach to it. And so I don't know, maybe that's why these games are doing so well. At least that's the reason why the ones that are getting backed by things like Kickstarter, which we'll talk about later, are having success. But at the end of the day, the games are good.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're putting out good quality games, then that's all I want, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, we'll talk about it in a bit, but Shovel Knight is a testament to that, and hopefully Mighty Number 9 is going to be a testament to that. But I think it's great. I mean, call me a hypocrite, but I usually the retro revival isn't limited to games. It's been going on with film in the last 10 years, and it's been going on with music, where you got all these different bands, starting with like Wolf Mother, who was really popular with it, kind of replicating the recorded sound of like Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath, creating a sound that's analog and dated. It's like, hey, it's 2014, I don't care, but I want this record to sound like it came out in 69. I was, me, when it comes to music, I'm really against that. It's like, why are we living in a time capsule? Yeah, I love analog classic music too, but I think you can be a band that's influenced by that but not living in the past, and still make a record that sounds good. Because I like records in the 60s, I like records in the 70s, I like records in the 80s and the 90s, and I like being able to tell apart the eras there just from the sound production. But
is there anything in the past 14 years that really has gotten you excited? I mean, that's the one reason I'm getting old, and anything ever since 2000 really doesn't like register with me for like, oh, this was such a great thing. But from back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, there's so many good like video games and shit that I just think about.
No, yeah, there's of course there is. There's all kinds of there's new games I play. It's not nearly as much, but just like the world of music and just like the world of film, it seems like the ratio is gotten saturated. It's now 99-1. But so we're gonna get 99 remakes.
Yeah, that's true.
In the film world, 99 remakes even in the game world. We're gonna get all this stuff. 99 shitty Final Fantasy sequels that don't live up to the series glory days. But for every 99, it seems like we do still have that one trickle of originality. Even if it's few and far between. It exists, in the film world. People like Ty West, like you said, even though he's kind of living off retro inspiration and stuff like that. But I think
he does it right though.
It was a long time ago, but I think a movie, The Descent, what was that, like 7-8 years ago? That was actually a movie that was original. It wasn't a rehashed script. Like, okay, something new, great. As long as it's not redone. And music, yeah, it's few and far between, but there's good stuff out there coming, and it's just all about waiting for the cream to rise to the top, I guess. And gaming will, I mean, this whole first-person shooter fad and stuff has lasted longer than any video game trend. I don't know if it's here to stay, or it might be here to stay, but I do think other games will have its day. I'm enjoying the retro revival, and I'm also glad that kids today get to enjoy it too. So, hopefully it's a lot more exposure, and hopefully we'll get more games like that. But yeah.